Hola chicos, bienvenidos a la clase de español. Otra vez estamos ahora en la clase número 16. Vamos a ver los objetivos para la clase de hoy. Vamos a continuar repasando el pretérito porque hay muchos irregulares y queremos practicar las formas. También ustedes van a escribir unos mini cuentos o, casas bonitas sobre la casa. Vamos a repasar los recursos literarios, those literary techniques that we talked about in our poesía. And then I'm going to give you some información de un proyecto de poesía que vamos a hacer. Bien, vamos a comenzar con una cita. Good thing to add to your diccionario personal. Something you could maybe work into one of your writings or speaking prompts at some point. This cita says, la vida es el arte de dibujar sin borrar. Sin borrar. Borrar, if you don't know that verb, means to erase. So, el arte de dibujar sin borrar. So, think about what this is saying about la vida. Que en la vida vamos a hacer errores. Hay errores durante la vida, pero está bien, es parte de la vida. Dibujar sin borrar. You can't go back and erase things that happened in the past, but you can continuar dibujando, continuar viviendo la vida. So I like that quote as an inspiración para hoy. Okay, you're going to find attached to this post, you're going to find dos documentos sobre las formas del pretérito. I put these pages in there specifically because son muy buenos. En 2 páginas resumen todo lo importante sobre las formas del pretérito. So I highly recommend that you download these, save these in a folder in your Google Drive that you can refer to when we are writing sentences using the pretérito. Todos los irregulares y los regulares están en estas 2 páginas. Entonces pueden usar estas páginas para la información importante. So go ahead and open those up and save those to your Google Drive. Bien, vamos a practicar un poco. Aquí hay un párrafo. And so I want you to spend a minute. I want you to press pause right now. You're not going to be turning this into me. But I want you to see how you can do with figuring out the 19 verbos. Todo es pretérito, ¿sí? So you may want to refer to these páginas. Todo es pretérito. I want you to press pause and spend 5 o 10 minutos escribiendo la forma correcta. Once you are done writing your answers, come back and we'll check them together. Okay, so if you are watching esta parte del video, that means you've already answered the 19 verbos. Has escrito las 19 formas correctas. Vamos a averiguar. Ana dice, ¿qué hiciste tú ayer? Check your spelling on all of these verbs. Andrea dice, estuve todo el día en casa ayudando a mamá con todos los quehaceres. ¿Por dónde comenzaste tú? Por la cocina, por supuesto. Lavé los platos y ordené los estantes. Mamá y yo pusimos todo en orden. No me digas que tú barriste el piso. Sé que odias hacerlo. Por supuesto, no solo barrí el piso, sino que lo limpié con un nuevo producto que es una maravilla. Me imagino que tú también pusiste en orden mi habitación, ¿verdad? ¿Qué va? Si tú no la arreglaste, ¿por qué tenía que hacerlo yo? Yo hice mi cama, cambié las sábanas y anduve, I spelled cambié wrong, sorry about that. Anduve de un lugar a otro sacudiendo los muebles. ¿Y por qué no saliste de casa después de que acabaste de ayudar con los quehaceres? No pude, mamá. Mamá tuvo que salir y yo tuve que quedarme a cuidar a Luisito. Pero no importa, ella me pagó muy bien por cuidarlo. Muy bien, so except for number 13, where it should be a C instead of a V, sorry about that, cambié. How did you do with the acentos? How did you do with the formas irregulares? Keep in mind how you did. If you got more than 2 o 3 incorrectos, I would say you should Google search práctica de pretérito and do some practice with the formas diferentes. Ok, muy bien, vamos a continuar. Entonces, vamos a practicar con el vocabulario de la casa y el pretérito. So you want to go back to esta lista. Remember, you also divided this into the categorías. The categorías can help you because when you form a good sentence, remember our casas bonitas. Your casas bonitas should have lots of different types of words in it. A great sentence is one that has obviously a verbo, but also some adjetivos, maybe some expresiones idiomáticas, those expressions that don't necessarily translate literally. Sustantivos interesantes, una variedad de cosas. So what I want you to think about is this lista de vocabulario dividido en grupos. Okay? So I've listed for you on this documento that's called Casas Bonitas de la Casa. You'll find it attached to this post. And I've given you 8 espacios diferentes. So in este espacio, I want you to use words que empiezan con la letra A y la letra B, so these words about the casa, and you are going to write me one awesome sentence in this box. Una casa bonita. Utilizando estas palabras y el pretérito. El pretérito. So we're practicing the formas del pretérito and estas palabras. So you're going to need to you don't need to obviously use every single one of these words, but you want to try to incorporate as many as that you can logically include to make an interesting, well-developed casa bonita sentence. Okay? For the next box, only the letter C. Only words with the letter C. You want to pick ones that you can use from this box of the letter C to make una casa muy bonita, pretérito, una oración. D starts down here, finishes up here through E. Bien? So cada espacio, you're going to type a sentence right in the box. When I look at it, I'm going to be looking at how well developed of a sentence it is and also the gramática, pretérito, ¿sí? Las formas de los verbos del pretérito. So you can either press pause right now and go and do that and come back, or you can do that at the end of the video lesson. Excelente. Vamos a continuar y vamos a repasar estos recursos literarios. These were all things that I mentioned to you as we were reading the different poemas. So rima asonante, if you remember, is when the vowel sounds in the words at the end of a line were rhyming. It could have been every other line, A, B, or it could have been 2 lines in a row. Arte menor is something that you see when when every line of any poem is 8 or less syllabus. Okay, so if a whole poem, each line has 8 or less syllables per line, that is called un poema de arte menor. Aliteración, we talked about, repetición de sonidos. Polisindentón, we saw this in Balada de los Dos Abuelos. Los dos se abrazan, los dos lloran, los dos corren. Polisindentón is usually the use of conjunctions, al, del, por. Also, los dos in this case means both. So it's a repetition of conjunctions. Hipérbole es la exageración. Anáfora is very similar to polisindentón. So polisindentón is actually a form of anáfora, because anáfora is when there's parts of sentences, usually the beginnings of sentences, that are repeated multiple times. So polisindentón specifically are your conjunctions, and in the case of Balada de los Dos Abuelos, it was the words los dos. But anáfora can be any repetición de palabras. And then we also talked about onomatopeya, como en Sensemaya, those sounds that sound like what it is as opposed to being a real word. Bien? Los recursos literarios. I mentioned those because you're going to need to think about these as you move into our proyecto de poesía. So let me explain to you el proyecto de poesía. El proyecto tiene 3 partes. Parte 1 va a ser hoy. When we meet for our clase en vivo hoy, you are going to spend the whole clase en vivo working with your partner or partners. We'll talk about who those are in just a little bit. And you are going to be reading poemas diferentes. You're going to have a choice of poems based on if you're in Español 4, 5, or 6, and you are going to choose 2 of the poems that I give you. And today your job is going to be to read, and I'll be giving you exact step-by-step directions. Parte 2 will be next class, clase número 17. So part of the video lesson, and then also for all of our clase en vivo, you will be again meeting with your partners, and you will be preparing una visual de tus poemas para el proyecto. Y parte 3 va a ser durante clase número 18 y va a ser la oportunidad para hablar. Y ustedes van a tener conversaciones entre su grupo y conmigo. Bien, so esto va a ser conversaciones con Google Meet. We'll meet with small groups only. No big class meet on that last day of the proyecto. Okay, so you will find some documentos attached to this post. And these are the 3 top ones that you want to open. One of them is called Proyecto de Poesía. It's 6 pages long. I just want you to open it and start and glance through it because it's going to have all of the directions in there of what you will be doing for the whole proyecto. So I've outlined it all for you in one document. You will also find in that document copies of the poems that you will be choosing from. You will also find a poetry project visual. It's a color-coded 3-column visual that breaks down the 3 parts of what you're going to be doing for the proyecto. And then the last document you want to open is where it's called Proyecto de Poesía Grupos. You will find the list of the grupos to see who you will be working with during our clase en vivo hoy and then throughout the next 3 classes. Okay? Bien. I would love it if you can open and read through those documents, at least glance through them before our clase en vivo, so that we can spend just a quick few minutes on answering some clarification questions so you can have most of the clase en vivo to work with your compañeros. Bien, entonces nos vemos a la hora normal durante nuestra clase en vivo. Gracias, chicos.